The aliens are here. So this is just a shot, possibly from Stargate, the TV show, of the Great Pyramid. But if we look here, the Great Pyramid was actually eight-sided, and that's because you only could see that during the equinoxes. So there's so many more fascinating things about the Great Pyramid. Suggest you look them up. I don't obviously have the time in a minute to tell you so many different interesting facts about the Great Pyramid and why it was. You wouldn't have been able to see that from the ground. So whoever done that really knew what they were doing from the air, really. Now, there's also another pyramid in Mexico that's got liquid mercury that was found underneath. Now, I did some research, and liquid mercury can actually dissolve, for example, gold from ore or gold from rock. So, in other words, this could have been actually used to take out the gold that was needed by the Anunnaki. I'm just going to slightly go off on a tangent here. So pause in the interdimensional for a moment. I'm just going to say thank you so much for everyone that's followed me and are enjoying these videos, and the feedback is fantastic. It warms my heart to read that you're all enjoying them and you're not falling asleep to my voice too much. Now, when I first started doing these, I've always thought that school should teach things in a chronological order, because while I was at school they went from Tudor to Henry VIII to Battle of Hastings, and I had no comprehension where they were in relation to each other. And I've always, said that they should teach, from A to B, and then go back over it so people understand. So I think they should teach kids at school, early on dinosaurs and whatever else, and then move on up, but in a chronological order, so a kid can say, "Aha, Battle of Hastings was before the Tudor times," and I didn't even know what Tudor times was. They were bantering this word around at school, Tudor. I was like, okay, well, when's that? And that's why I was probably in special needs, because I needed to see it in a logical order, not just throw numbers at me and expect me to understand it. So when I started these videos here, I thought, right, I'm going to do it as it should be laid out, I think, as to help people understand it a little bit more. I was tempted to just go down the route of getting loads of followers and sticking up videos, just using other people's videos and putting them up. But I thought, no, I won't do that. I'll do something different and try it my way. And so far, it looks like everyone's enjoying it. So I'm just going to show you this video here. This is from a program. This is why I'm doing it my way. This is from Ancient Aliens. Now, they found, people have found a hidden cave underneath here, which is in one of the Aztec cities' pyramids
on the continent.
So I'm just going to play it, and basically they set this robot down and it finds gold. Sorry, I was just trying to get there. They find these gold or clay things with gold flecks on them. So on the inside they're clay, apparently, and on the outside gold flecks. Now, if you've watched my other videos, I've even said about another pyramid that had mercury underneath it to extract the ore, or to extract the gold from the ore. And wait for it, the walls were adorned with the gold flecks, so it was the Anunnaki trying to look. This is a computer simulation, but the Anunnaki would dig in there. Now, watch what Ancient Aliens say it is. A ritual.
Suggest that someone was.
They say it's a ritual place, which is absolutely crazy. The Bosnian pyramid in Bosnia, covered totally in trees and makes it look like a mountain, but it's not. It's an actual pyramid underneath that that's grown over it. Is actually 150 foot taller than the Great Pyramid. So it's actually this is the Great Pyramid, really, in effect. However, I had heard that in Italy there was another one that's bigger than this. Now, underneath here is cave systems and tunnels, and they used the sand, dirt and pebbles that was underneath to actually make concrete to make the blocks for the actual pyramid. So talk about eco-sustaining. Now, they also used a form of clay which is such high quality. It's been researched by 6 institutes, the actual clay that was used, and they said it's the finest quality clay you could ever get. So you've got to remember that the Great Pyramid was blocks. I know people can say, oh, well, it was made using concrete, limestone concrete, and poured in. But just because they can do that doesn't mean that's how it's done, because there is a quarry that's missing exactly the same amount of stone as there is the pyramids in Giza. So whereas here there's no quarry and the stone was actually from underneath, and also the Great Pyramid don't have clay as mortar. There is no mortar, it's literally block on block on block, whereas this one does have mortar, which is the clay. So there is a difference between the two. However, at the top point here, it's been noted that at 30 gigahertz, I think it is, a 13-foot diameter power or frequency in the ultrasound is coming out of it. So 13 foot around there, which again makes this seem like it's another one of those power plants like the Great Pyramid.
After Alululu bit the private parts of King Anu, he was sentenced by the 7 judges to exile, and so he chose to go to Mars with his grandson. So Alululu stayed on Mars. Now, that brings us to the question, was there life on Mars? Because obviously he's, this is written facts that we can't dispute unless you think it's mythological. Someone just writing them for the fun of it, this huge backstory. So if we believe that this is all real, then he stayed on Mars, and the Aigi was there as well. So was Mars inhabited with life back then? Now this was less than what mainstream say. Mainstream say about 4 billion years ago was when the last time it had water on it. But maybe it didn't. Maybe there was that nuclear war that I've mentioned before.
No, these are not spaceships. These are different types of pyramids. Now, ignore the dates here. As I've proven in the last 2 videos, mainstream haven't got a clue. And if they do have a clue, they're hiding the actual real dates from us. Now, obviously, they hid the real dates from us, which, if you believe my videos and the literature, which was the ancient text that tells us that they built these, the Anunnaki built these when they came here, then these are hundreds of thousands of years old. Now obviously if mainstream allowed us to know that, then obviously once we know that these are hundreds of thousands of years old, that then means the Anunnaki were real, and then aliens are real, and it's a whole new world, and God isn't what we all think he is. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at these descriptions and dates when on mainstreams. They are wrong by hundreds of thousands of years. I thought we'd have a look at pyramids around the world, and yes, they are around the world. There's about 118 in Egypt alone, and sometimes they're hidden, so there probably is more in Egypt. Now, the reason why I say they're hidden is here is in Guatemala, and as you see, it's a step pyramid, but it's literally covered in trees, etc. Now that does happen a lot around the world. Here's one in Indonesia, again covered over the years with trees and grass, etc. Here's another one in Bosnia, again covered, although you can kind of make out that's a pyramid for sure. And there's even one in Mexico. Now supposedly it's bigger than the Great Pyramid by at least 4 times the size. So what we're saying is there's probably so many more things that we don't know. While I was doing a live chat, someone said to me that myths are just myths, because I was talking about Greeks, etc. And they said no, myths are all just myths. So I thought I'd just do some videos showing that myths can actually end up being true. So this one is called the 7 Pagodas of Mahalab. I'm terrible at pronunciation, as you can probably read it there. Now the story goes that there was 7 of these in total, and they were marvellous, and the gods didn't like the fact that these temples were marvellous, so they sent a flood, and 6 of them got destroyed and just left this one. That's the story. It's a myth until 2004, an earthquake caused a tsunami in the Indian Ocean and ended up revealing the remaining temples. So it wasn't a myth after all. So I'm just saying, next time people say a myth is just a myth, when we've got evidence that myths turn into real things, just bear that in mind. Is this a carving of a dinosaur next to an elephant on an ancient Indian temple? Well, this gentleman here, who I highly recommend you should follow on YouTube, he's really good at looking at ancient buildings in India and finding things that people don't want to talk about. He's the person, one of the people that found the guns on ancient temples, which is quite amazing. So the question is this a dinosaur? Because obviously dinosaurs supposedly died out 65 million years ago. Well, according to the Ica stones, no, they didn't all die out. And according to the Cambro figurines in different location, again, I have debunked anyone that has tried to debunk these. So I've watched my previous videos, you'll see that I point out exactly where and why I'm right. And of course then you've also got the human footprints with dinosaur footprints. So could this really have been a dinosaur?